Today, here we go. Today webinar. So today webinar is a continue of the last series of webinar, in which this is going to be the webinar regarding the 5-step guide on how you can execute your content strategy in 2022. Right. The purpose of the webinar essentially, one, is to go in more details of how you can utilize our tool into each of the steps, each of your step in your workflows, so that you could really create a content strategy from A to Z, right? Like I share in many of our webinar, the goal of our tool is all about helping you to do the preparation part as strongly, as well, and as efficiently as possible. So if you are able to draw out a really well thought map and strategy of what topic you want to write about, what kind of content you will write about, how you can utilize, how do you optimize those, and execute it on the detail level, we are certain that you will be 70% winning in your SEO strategy. And a quick note on this is that Writer's End is all about content writing. So that's why I never really mention anything in regard to on-page, anything in regard to backlinks. Those are the things in which I want, maybe if you guys want to do, you have to use other tool to kind of work on to use, right? But in regard to SEO in general, content play a huge role of what determine your keyword to rank. And so that is the goal of Writer's End. I do suggest that you do need to have some other tool to help you with on page and also some backlink works, right? Even the very basic, and remember, choose all the basic and do all the basic really well first. Don't do something too fancy, like you run extremely crazy technical amount of backlinks throughout. You was buying guest spots everywhere all the time and loading up in your website constantly. You don't need to really do those. Just choose and pick those very basic fundamentals of on page, making sure everything work well, the page speed inside look good, and then you make sure that the links that you bought, the backlinks that you bought, are from very reliable source, very good guest posts, and the content from that backlink has to be well written. So just do those things very well, and then you do the content creation. Just use Writer's End, use our workflows, and just kind of work on it diligently, and you should be quite okay, right? Okay, so moving on. Let me do a quick recap from our last webinar so that everyone can be on the same page. So the first thing is I introduced the concept of topic clustering. Right, topic clustering using our topic research, topic discovery tool. You sort of just use discovery. Actually, we don't have fans going on right now. Everything is completely quiet. Let me see. Very unstable and choppy. All right, how about I will quit this one and then I will go live again. All right, sorry guys. Let me see if we can fix this problem before I continue. Hello, hello. Hi. Can you guys hear me better now? The background noise stop. Can you hear me better now? The background noise stop. Everything sounds okay. Okay. Do you guys have any background noise now? I changed the mic, so all right. All right. Let me know if you. Okay. All right. So I think this time things are okay. Okay. Cool. All right, let's continue this time. All right, hopefully it's nothing bad will happen on our end. Okay, so like I said, so the last episode, last week, I went through a series of 3 steps. The first 3 steps all focus on the research part, right? As we were sharing here. So this is where we were at the last end. We go through the topic research. Forming topic and subtopic that show Google you're an expert. I went through the concept where we have to be able to find topic and subtopic so that you can turn yourself into an expert in Google's eyes using our topic discovery. That's the first end. The second part the second step is after you have already get all the topic and subtopic laid down in a very clear and precise manner, you start working on through your keyword research end, right? Using our topic keyword explorer, and using our topic explorer under each of the subtopic and topic, you'll be able to kind of sort out a list of keyword that you want to target. This list of keyword, then you can go through our ESKP to sort of do some financial forecasting and see how much money you will be able to kind of get from the keyword list itself. So once you've done that with all of the keyword list and it meet with your financial goal, you kind of have the plan and strategy all in place. You move into article structure. That's where you use our keyword cluster to cluster all those keyword lists together, get out a bunch of article title and list, so you see that, okay, these are all the article that I want to write about. And using that article, then you can place them in different timeline based on your own resources, timing, team member, whatever that you have in mind. Because usually this is very much depends on each of you, right? Some people who has a strong SEO team, strong SEO background, technically also have very strong resources. You may choose to sort of pick more difficult group of keyword as well, and sort of work group them and then put them into different article together. Okay, sorry, I'm reading the comments and it looks like quite a few people got problems with the things. I think I'm not sure because some people, most of the people still, the connection is still fine. So I think we're just gonna go through the whole things and then you guys can rewatch the recording because we'll have the recording available almost by tomorrow. So I think something wrong with Facebook today because my connection is still quite okay. All right. So to continue, once you have the article list, that is done with the research part. So by this time, in your own pyramid of content strategy, you should already have main topic, pillar page, subtopic go right below, and then you have a bunch of keywords, and then you have article in regard to each of those. After you have a list of article, you are good with your research part. Then you move to the second part, which is where we will be here today. All right, sorry guys. I really don't know what happened with Facebook Live this time. Okay, we'll do all the recording, and we'll do some edit, and then we'll have it live by tomorrow for you guys. Okay, so back to our webinar. So that is the purpose of our webinar today. We'll be going through the last end, which is execution part. That is the writing and also check-in publishing. All right, let's go to our okay. Present. Oh, sorry. Writing execution. Okay, this is where we are. So writing, before talking to writing execution, now that you have a keyword and you have an article list, right, and you want to execute on that article, you will, the tool that we present to you is Content Creator. This is where you start to put that keyword into our Content Creator tool and start sort of execute on it, right? But the funny thing about writing article is that it follows the same principle as you do when you do research. You still have to, there's only two players in this playing field other than you. And you are the supplier end, which is you are the website, right? You have to write an article that meet with all the requirements of the platform, which is Google. So the first thing you have to do is that you have to focus on the content guideline, of what Google has in regard to how they think a good content should be. Right? Usually what it is that when you write a content and you publish it on Google and finally your content got indexed, the moment it got indexed, a few things happen. The first thing is Google bots will then go into your website, right? It go into your content, it does a few things. The first thing is that the Google bots want to see whether or not your website is well optimized in terms of on-page. Are all the internal linking well put together? Are all your sitemap are organized in a really good and efficient way? Is the content well put together, structure with heading 1, heading 2, heading 3? Underneath is each content paragraph. You have main keyword highlighted and being in bold letter. Do you lay out your content in such a way that every users will be able to read it through very well? Is your loading speed fast and well optimized? All of that, right? So that's the first thing Googlebot does. They go and dive inside and they check your on page, right? The second thing it does is that they will look through your content. They go through steps, line by line, and they look for what are the keywords you are trying to target, because they need to know what keywords you're trying to convey. You know, you are the supplier ends. The platform has to do the job of looking for your content and making sure that they know what keyword you are targeting, so that Google can match your content to the appropriate users, right? So that's the second thing. They go through word by word. They try to find the keyword. This is where you place the keyword strategically in your content, right? You have to know why the keyword exists. And lastly, Google does one thing, and this is very cool. They start scanning for entities, right? This is where Google NLP go into place. What is entity? Entity essentially is what Google tried to extract the meaning out of the content in which you try to write. So it's very different. Before 2012, right? Before 2012, Google was a machine, basically a search engine of Google run neural engines. Run on string, not things. So string is essentially everything as in content. Google will treat it as like a string of data, right? If a person search for the keyword Apple, Google will present to you every single content and website and article that contain the word Apple and show it to you. But after 2012, that's when Google introduced the concept called knowledge graph. And knowledge graph essentially is Google were able to categorize every single word into different entity. And each of these entity will form together into a knowledge graph or knowledge tree. And knowledge tree essentially is, for example, if you have an apple now, right? If you search apple, Google will understand that you are either looking for brand apple or you are looking for apple as a fruit. And typically, Google will show you what is more popular, right? People would to search for those keywords will have tend to have a certain sort of like a intention, right? And Google now will usually show you Apple, but below the keyword Apple, Google will show you different entity that most closely relate to that phrase. For example, Google will show you Steve Jobs, Tim Cook, MacBook, iPhone, John Ivy. So all of those are actually entity. They're not keyword, but they are different entity that in the same knowledge graph which Google formed using the keyword Apple, right? So entity essentially is, I'm showing for you here. This is entity, right? Entity essentially is, oh no, entity is a word or phrase that represent an object which can be identified, classified, and categorized. They're different than keyword and is recognized through Google NLP, not as keyword. Example of objects are persons, consumer goods, events, numbers, and organizations, right? So Google bots, when they go in there, they will actually scan through the context of your content and they will look for different entities. For example, if you write about Apple, right? Google bots will actually look for different entities that have very closely relate to Apple in their database. For example, if you write about Apple as a brand, but you don't mention Steve Jobs, if you don't mention John Ivy, if you don't mention MacBook, iPhone, Tim Cook, or any of the entities that closely relate to Apple, your content may not be the best value for the users who are looking for that keyword, right? So this is the most breakthrough sort of news after 2012. And from 2012, after Hummingbird update of Google until 2018, these neural engines of Google has advanced so much. And by the time 2020, I think 2018, that's when they introduced the Google API to the world. Things have dramatically changed, right? So those are the three things. I'm going to go into more details soon. But those are the three things you have to recognize that happen when you publish your article, right? This is very important for your execution part, because the first thing you have to do is you have to know what Google does to your content when you publish those. So those are the three things. They do a few more things, a lot more advanced, but essentially these are three most fundamental and most important things that Google bots will do when you first publish any content to the web, right? And so let's go back to here. Any SEO writers will understand that when you write a certain things to do SEO, you have to really balance this question. Are you writing it for Google bots or are you writing it for users? And typically the right answer would be you have to write for both. You have to write for both. Why? You have first for Google bots, because if you don't write well for Google bots, you won't rank. Google will think that your content is not up to date, is not good enough, it doesn't serve the purpose, and it doesn't fit well with the intent in which Google users are searching for. So Google will not rank you. But let's say you write a really well-written piece and it fit perfectly with Google bots. Every standard, every requirements, all of the things in which Google requires from your content, you were able to fulfill. And Google say, you know what? I'm gonna push this article up and let it rank on top of the Google. And let's see what the user's reaction to it is. Because this is the second step. You have to write well for your users as well. Good content will always last. Why? When Google allowed your article to rank on top, they will start to measure the second phase, right? They want to see if the users go read your content, because now you're going to have traffic. If the users go in and start reading your content, do they actually read the content? How long did they scan on that web page? How long did they stay on certain phrase? Did they actually read through the whole thing? If let's say you have a 1,000 words article, it's required about 2 to 3, let's say 5 minutes read. But the person every user who get in there only stay there for about 30 seconds, something's not wrong, or something's not right. So Google will, right after they do a period of testing engagement, right? And they will see that the engagement of the users who actually read this web page are not very high. And when the users go in, they only stay there for a short time and they quit, meaning that they don't like to be in that website, right? So instead of instead of they read the whole thing and then they continue to read more, they get out, right? And if this number continue to go up, Google will say that, well, your article may write very good for me, but it doesn't serve very well for your users, so I'm going to drop you down. That's when you will see that there's a lot of keyword or a lot of content that you wrote and you thought that, oh, I got ranked to the top of Google, but after a while it just dropped, and in a very short while your content suddenly dropped. And the second thing why you have to write for your users is the fact that your users, whoever that go and read your content, will become your customer. And you want to write good content. You want to make sure that the content you write give them enough value so that they think that you are a well-trusted source of information, so that they will continue to go in your website, read more content, and eventually turn out into your customer. It's the whole journey. You can't just simply turn a traffic source and become your customer right away, right? So you have to be able to gain this ability to write for both. And Zen will help you at least to the point of writing well for bots. And these are the few things that we suggest you do, right? So like I was sharing with you, the objective is to make sure your website meet all the requirements and do and don't on Google platform. So we come up with a concept. The first is, since we don't do anything on page, you have to do that on yourself, but we do help you on all the on page part of your content itself. So I will show you later how you could do that on Zen. But there's two concepts in which we develop content creator with. The first is KYC, know your competitor, not know your customer, okay? Know your competitors. So know your competitor means that our tool will scan through the content of all the top 20 competitors of that seed keyword, and we will actually scan using our own proprietary natural language processing algorithm, look for all of the keywords in which their content are trying to rank for, and we look for those elements or those keywords in which make them different from the rest, so that if you would, we suggest it to you so that you know that, okay, perhaps these are the key. If I have these keywords in our content, that will be the first thing I have to do, because I will need to make sure that if Google bots go into my website, go into my content, and they scan through the whole entire context of my content, and when they look for all the keywords, they see that, okay, this guy know what he's talking about. He has all the keyword in which all the top guys are having. So they do so he does know how to fulfill the users, and he does his homework, right? He has looked through and scanned through and studied all of his competitors, the top 20, so that these are all the keywords that they have, right? All the elements in which they did right so that they could rank. We try to present all that to you. So know your competitors, right? Second thing, know your bots. Know your bot is figure out the fundamentals Google algorithm define which content is valuable and vice versa. This is where I was sharing with you earlier about the third thing which Google bot does, is that Google bot will go in there and they use Google natural language processing to figure out, to look in your content, look for all of the entities that you are trying to write. If you write about depression, and if you don't mention about antidepressant, if you don't mention about treatment, if you don't mention about some of the symptoms and whatnot, those are the entities. Google will actually consider that your content are not very, let's say it's the trustworthiness level of your content are not very high, right? And it is a part where we integrate Google NLP API directly into content. I know a lot of people actually didn't understand this part in the last time we introduced it. So this is a series in which I will go more in details why it's so important in your whole execution level, that you need to really have Google NLP in your writing process, right? And in here, this is where you really know when Google bots go into certain content, all of your competitors, what did they look for? Right, and if you see these are the list of entities that are very important, and Google said, hey, you know what, I highly recommend this type of entities in your content, we should follow, right? And so know your competitors, know your bot, right? This one I already went through. So here, like I was sharing, this is one of the view in which you can see human will read on the right side, user view. You will see content, you will see picture, you'll see the outlines and everything. This is what Googlebot will see. Googlebot will see this is natural language API demo, and when they read this passage, they will actually break them down into this. Google is organization, headquartered in Mountain View. Mountain View is location, right? And they kind of have that number in here, and these are all listed out as different entity. And they also look for the sentiment of the content itself. Sentiment is, are they positive, are they negative, or are they neutral? There's no right and wrong. It's just that depending, let's say if you talk about depression, generally the tone will be negative. And so your content when you write, it should probably contain keywords or sentiment that sort of have the same sentiment with all your competitors, right? Having this is quite important because then Google will know that, you know what, when users search for this phrase, most of the content carry a negative sentiment, or most of the content carried positive sentiment. And I see that this guy, when he writes his content, the content is also carry the same sentiment. That's good, because that's what the users need. They kind of have the expectation. So this guy know what he's talking about, I will match them with the users. That's how you rank on top. All right. So here are the three things you need to know when it comes to Google NLP. The first is entity. Right, I was already explained this to you guys. The second is salience. Salience is the scoring of each of the entities. So each entity will be measured with a salience number. Salience show the importance or centrality of an entity to the entire document text. So let's say this. Let's say you write an article about Apple brand, right? And you repeat. Essentially, you talk about the history of Apple brand, and you talk about how the role of Steve Jobs has truly sort of like played such a huge role in throughout the whole history of Apple, and how he was a creator and the starter, the pioneer of all these incredible ideas. In their scoring, they will show Steve Jobs as the salience scoring as very high, maybe 1 even. So high salient meaning that Google will say, okay, Steve Jobs is an entity that has the highest importance of that entity to the entire document text, right? So that's salience. So when you see a salience scoring, you can know that, okay, it's ranged from 0 to 1, and if it's 1, that's a good salience. That's a good entity. Yeah. Okay. The last one is entity level sentiment. Sentiment section separates sentences based on sentiments that can be positive and negative. It is useful to check feature snippet on any given word. Either Google is ranking positive sentence or negative sentences. Enterprise typically use this to analyze the customer review of their website. Either they are positive or negative, right? So on this session essentially is Google will show you in each of those entities what are the sentiment of each of the entities. So this is a little more detailed breakdown of what they will show you, right? And this is what we will also show to you in Google NLP. So using what I would suggest is to keep things simple, focus on entity and the salience itself. Right? Once you have these two things, you can start study the last part, and you will integrate that in your content, right? And with this, with the keyword in which includes that your competitor has using our NLP. So it's right as an NLP is to know your competitor. It's Google NLP is to know your bot, right? And you combine them two together with your ability to write, and then you are building great outlines of your of your content. You kind of go through about 70% of the execution part already. The last end will just be your writing, right? And so let's go into this one. I will reserve this for a later part. So let's go into the tool for now, and then we'll talk about know your users as the last part of us, right? Okay, let's go to the tool. So this is our dashboard. go content creator. Again, with content creator, remember we have a project management sort of dashboard. So over here, make sure that you organize them into different projects. If you have if you run 2-3 websites, or if you have one website but you want to break them down into different sort of section. Let's say subtopic 1, you want to write like 5 different articles. Subtopic 2, you want 10 articles. Break them down to projects so that it's easier for you to work with. So anyway, over here I already have a article called Nutrition Plan for Athlete, right? In which I already turn on NLP. The way you turn on NLP is, first of all, you have to buy NLP credits, because like I was sharing in the past, Google charge us when we use their NLP. So for each person who use NLP, we have to pay money for them. So that's why we have to charge everyone, even with our lifetime deal. So we were very transparent with the pricing in our previous videos. So you guys can check out our last videos on that and how much Google charge us with NLP. So anyway, the first thing is I have over here is called AI credit. We'll probably change the name to NLP credit later on when we have the actually AI writing. So what you do is that when you add article, that's over here, there's a turn on NLP. You can just kind of flip it on and do everything the same. So I already have an article that have NLP turn on, so click on it. So again, first page, I think that we don't really have to do too much of the details here because you already know what the steps are. But essentially, build a really good outlines, right? And you know that nutrition plan for athlete is the keyword. Make sure that it's that keyword is in your title, right? Let's say I could buy a title that check some of the most the best nutrition plan for athlete recovery in 2022, something like this, and you write a description on it, and then you start looking for things that sort of resemble this title, the best nutrition plan. All right, you look for a different nutrition plan, best diet plan program, daily meals. Here we go, maybe something like this. You can look for something like this. These are some of the few tips you can add. Say tips to build, like that, and then you can click on here and just kind of add some of the stuff that they have here. So make sure that when you build an outline, you build it with intention of all your headings are in very well put order, right? Check out how many headings you should have here. So we already have like the percent of your competitors. Let's see, you have word count here, and make sure you have all the word counts that sort of at least longer than 80% of your competition. And the heading, you can put it this way, and with the heading you start to kind of build that based on what you say. Let's say right here I still want it to be H2. I can move it here. So those build outlines and make sure that the outlines laid out very well optimized, right? I think this one you can play around and work with using our tutorial videos. So over here I want to notice a few things. So the first thing is know your competitors. Know your competitors, I will share with you, there's two parts. First is know their structure in outline, so you can look at the way they structure their content. These guys, see, Healthline is the definition of really good SEO. Look at their outlines. H1, H2, H2, under H2 is H3. These are some of the top under H3. Best for men. See, their content is so well laid out with the amount of word count are very high, always very consistent. Their contents are always showing values to their users. And that's why Healthline are always able, if you search anything regarding health, they are right there on the top. Very, very good content writing. So you see, the reason why we kind of show it this way is that you could learn from the best, right? You learn from all these guys who were able to rank consistently. If you are in a certain niche, you will see that there's a certain website that just kind of rank almost every keyword, even the big keyword. And if you go through them, you could study their outlines. They study what they did that is so good. And you look at this outline, and you can see the difference between that outline and someone, let's say here. Oh, this guy's a really good outline as well. Let's say here, maybe. No, they all are very, very good outlines. Maybe this one, a bit more, less, but they are also, most of this website, they are very well outlined together, right? So H1, this one is a bit off. H1 too many, and then H2, H3. So, but you can study from those guys, right? This look for the best and see how they structure their outlines, and you can just typically follow the exact path. That's the first part of knowing your competitors. Second thing is look for the sentiment. You see, when you talk about nutrition plan for athlete, that is usually the content are in neutral sentiment, right? And over here, I already said neutral is the overall content of your top 20 competitors, content analyzed by Google NLP. Our recommendation is to develop your content aligning with the general sentiment of for the optimal result. So if you look at this and you're like, oh, okay, all right, you know what? Most of these are neutral. I shouldn't write something that way too positive or way too negative. I should keep the tone around the same sort of sentiment when I write the article. Right. The third thing is when you look for certain website here, not only you can look here, but go into their website using our quick view. So you can not only see the way they structure the outlines, you can actually see the content of them writing about it itself. You see, they have, how do they put the picture? How do they line out the content? How do they do the linking, the internal linking? Look, shop the book here. Get started with Noom here. Add sugar, Nordic diet. They do really good job of internal linking. So I really want to make sure you guys study this. Look for really good people. Look for competitors that are outstanding in what they do in terms of content, and look for what they did right. See the way they internal link all of this article, Green Chef. See, these are all linking articles. You click on it, it will guide you through different article right here. And so this is how you do internal linking in a very detailed way. And you look through their content, and something you really like, you can just copy. You add over here, copy it, set. There you have it, and then maybe you look for some phrase or term that you really like. You could also copy them and just kind of add below, right? And then you'll move this into as the list. Turn this off. See, this is just slowly kind of putting them together, the pieces and pieces, and spend a good amount of time here. Right? Don't rush into any AI writing tool and just click and run right away. Do it right on this part will actually help you tremendously in making sure that your content will not only rank but will rank for a while. Right? I don't want you guys to just go in AI writing and bam. Any AI writing will just write stuff for you, but writing stuff don't mean that you could. For one, you have to make sure your user want to read it. And second, you have to make sure that Google wants to go through it, right? And so my recommendation, don't do that, right? Down here, same thing, similar last time, nothing to that. So we move to the next step, right? So over here in keyword to consider, you can see the first column is competitor keywords. Competitor keyword actually is NLP term, right? Other tool like they introduced and they say, oh, it's NLP terms and whatnot. We have it. Right, it is essentially the same thing, but we run quite a few filters to make sure that the keyword that we present to you are very highly focused, right? So what we do is, like I said, we scan through the content of all the top 20 competitors. We look for all the keyword in which they are trying to target, and we have to run through the filter of Google database to make sure that there are search volume on them, right? If you use some other tools, some tools actually give you keyword like for some very single keyword that really don't make sense to add it into your content. We don't have those keyword here. We run a few filters, and then we have to measure the relevancy of this keyword to your main keyword that you try to target as well, to make sure that these are the keyword that you need to look on. So you see, if you look for spot performance, we'll show you how many times it appear on weddings or in paragraph. So these are repetition. These are the few keywords in which, okay, you know what, if I want to write about nutrition plan for athlete, I better have some of this keyword in here. And over here, we kind of already set a pre-select keyword list. So pre-select means that we look for keywords that have very high volumes, a lot of general usage, and high relevancy. And we add them kind of automatically for you into this list. The second part is opportunity keywords. These are the keywords in which over here we don't see, and we go through Google keyword database, the same source that we use for Google for Keyword Explorer, and we look for those keywords that have the highest relevancy to the main keyword. And we think that, hey, you know what, this might be some of this keyword might be a very good keyword for you to add in addition to what you see here. So those are the opportunity keywords. So you can actually, hey, you know what, I'm going to add on this keyword. Maybe if I can rank this keyword, I could probably just get like if I rank the main keyword, I probably could be able to rank some of this keyword as well, right? So you see, like endurance athlete nutrition plan for basketball player. If your content, when you build the outlines, you know what, I kind of write. There's a paragraph in which I write about nutrition plan for different particular sport. One for basketball player, one for football player, one for teenager, those kind of things. I could add these two in, right? Very simple, right? And the last one, this is where you will only have if you turn on our Google NLP. And from Google NLP, essentially is what it does, like I was sharing. We use Google API to go through the content of all the top trending competitors. And we have them list out all the entities that they scan through. And we will actually show you entities here that has the highest salience score with the highest general usage. We show you two views. The first is total entities. This is the list of all the entities. You can click on them and see how they were used in certain aspect. Or you can do search view, which when you click on them, you will be able to see each of the content. For example, here you really like healthline.com, right? The way they write their content. You look through. These are all of the entity in which they mention when they talk about diet plans or nutrition plan, right? So you see, when you look through this and you start seeing all this entity and see how the score is high, this is where you could look for entities that's really good and add them into here. And we kind of did that too, in which we look for all the entity in which they have very high salience point and also have very good general usage, and we automatically add them onto the keyword to include for you already. So you kind of look through, and the last step is after you do that, you have to do reviews on this list, and from this review list you will be able to kind of take out or add on more keyword. If you like, you can add on more keyword over here. You can import from a certain list of keyword that you already have based on your previous research, and once that's done, that's it, you're ready to write. So by the end of step 2, right, you are already past know your competitors using Writer Zen NLP, or know your Google bots using Google NLP. If you've done through both of that and you already know that, okay, in my content I have the entities that are closely related with nutrition plans, so when the bots go in, the bots will know right away that I know about my stuff. Second things, it's I know about what other competitors are trying to rank for, what keywords they're targeting, and I have those keywords in my content as well, so that when Google go in, they're like, hey, this is good. And thirdly, the content in which you write also carry the same sentiment in which the top competitors are having as well. You kind of have all those three together. So those are the three things. So then you get into the last part of the race, which is content writing. This is where you have to write exactly like using the outlines in which you already built, and you have to make sure that you write well, you write your users. So here are some tips for writing for users. First of all, know your users. So your customer are interested in what's good for them, not you, right? So make sure your content is valuable to make them engage along your content strategy with a support user persona and customer journey. So this is the process where you have to study your users, right? If you write about nutrition plan for athlete, your content has to your user, the user who very likely to search for it is athlete, right? They are very likely they are athlete that they search on Google. So okay, who are they? If they are athlete, what time of the day they get on? What kind of what are their background? What are their journey as customer? Are they looking for knowledge at the moment? Are you writing as knowledge sharing at the moment, or are you writing as sort of like content to make you convert? So over here, you have to make sure you study your users. You have to know who they are, what's their background, what they do, what their likes and what they dislike. Are they typically males or female? What's their age group, demographic, so on and so forth, right? So from here, when you have a good picture of your users, you start moving on to writing on a purpose, right? Concrete leading path into the article, to one article to the other. So when you write a certain article, make sure that you have internal linking. If you write about nutrition plan for athlete, you list out all this nutrition plan. Okay, this is a recommended nutrition plan for baseball player. This is a recommended nutrition plan for football player. Oh, and check out not only nutrition plan, we have some exercise tip if you are a baseball player to help you increase your endurance. So and that will be linked to your next article. See, all of the article should be linking in terms of content meaning, so that when a user they go into a flow and continue to stay. Your users, if they stay longer, the longer your users stay in your website, the higher the chance your content will rank higher. I can guarantee that the fact 100%. We test on so many websites already, and every website that have very good content and keep users engaged for longer. So if users, after they engage with your content, the next time when they search for certain term, there's nutrition plan and then space, and they will search for your website. And if they do that and they click on it, Google will determine that's a signal of trust, and that's the highest signal of trust that you can ever earn. A person search on Google, include your brand in the keyword that they try to search, and right away click on your article, spend time into your article, read through the article, and clicking on the next article and the next article and the next article. That's engagement. So the rule of engagement for users and your website is the longer you keep them in your website, the higher the chance your content will rank, and the higher the chance your content will sustainably stay in the ranking position that you want, right? So, like I said, again, get a good picture of your users and start writing really good and highly valuable content to them. Make sure you have to write good content. AI writing can only help you so much. It will help you get some nice article out of the way. They're not going to help you to keep your content, your person engaged, right? Make sure you build a really well put outline and send it out to a good content writer to have it go through to you. Or you can use AI writing to help you put in, but put in the work, right? Don't put your idea 100% behind AI. AI is not going to be able to deliver that things that you wanted. Okay, so that's the step 4 and essentially step 5, right? Because after you're done writing, you do the last step, which is check for plagiarism checker and publish. So that is the end of one article execution, and why you should do what you did, and why you should do rather than and utilize Google NLP, utilize Writers and NLP, utilize our outline building. We have a major update coming up to help you build the outlines even easier. The whole entire workflow are being rethought completely, and we basically break them down, rebuild them all over again to make sure that you will have even a better outlines building all the way to the content writing part. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But do spend good amount of time on your outlines, making sure that it's SEO optimized. Spend a good amount of time picking out the keyword in which you know that you will give you winning. Pick out the right entities and spend some good amount of time to write a very, very highly valuable content for your users, right? And doing all that with the whole research backup, and you kind of just do this continuously, you have a very strong case to win your SEO, right? Everything I said, 100% just basic stuff, right? But do the basic stuff really well will help you go very far. Don't try to do all these crazy little technical things. You don't need to do those. Your small website, your smaller website, right? You target amount of keyword it's more, it's less sort of you don't have the resources. Google don't expect you guys to have all that crazy amount of resources, crazy amount of backlinks in order to rank, right? Google are very smart. They know that content comes from expert, and not all expert has big website, right? Some experts simply have a medium website, have a blog post, right? And so Google looking for that. Google looking for that rule of engagement. Even a website that has horrible layout, really bad on page, but they have really good engagement from the users, Google will rank them. I can guarantee you that we run into a lot of situations. There's a WordPress website that is just simply horrible looking, horrible on page, horrible in everything. There's no backlinks behind, but they write great content. Users just search for them and go in there. Search for them and go in there. So each time they have a new sort of like, they just have a good blog, right? So each time they have a new blog title, everyone jump in there, click on the link, go directly in there, search Google, go into the, that's it, they rank. Google know that's an expert. The expert doesn't have to be on page, amazing, right? So just do everything right. Just do all the simple things right. You will be able to go very far, right? It takes some time in training in the beginning, but as you get done through and you get used to the workflow, you'll find that it's quite easy, because the research part, which typically take a long time, now only take you maybe like 1 or 2 days. Yeah. Okay, so that is that for the end of webinar. I can't believe we took another an hour for this, but I think I have covered majority of all the details needed, so that you were able to kind of capture and truly understand the essence of why we build the things we build the way it is. Right? So I'll take some questions now. If you guys have any questions, we'll take them for now 15, 20 minutes. Rise and final puzzle piece will be AI ready. Yes, that's coming. And it will be a bit different. I'm very excited about our AI SEO, AI support part. Okay, any questions for us? You can purchase the Google NLP for your testing. Just simply click on remaining limit, click on top up your credit. You will see it right over here. You can top up your keyword credit or AI credit over here. How would you structure the pillar page? Is it possible to share the slide? Yeah, we will share the slides once it's done. We'll pick out the things to it. So for pillar page, you can go into this. So this is a very good article. It's at here. I will put it in the comment. Right. Essentially, talk about topic cluster, how they improve SEO, and this is a very it's been around for a very long time. It's been updated because topic cluster is classically one of the best way to build your content pyramid, right? So over here they talk about topic cluster. They talk about your pillar page. There's an artwork for it too, pillar content, and what you need to kind of put in your pillar content. And you can rewatch my first webinar where I kind of go into more details of how you kind of build it from using our topic discovery tool. Again, everything we build based purely on very fundamental principle of Google. We don't want to go like create or do this backlink data, DR, PR, CR, like it's too much. All those data, like for example, if you use SEMrush, right? If anyone of you guys use SEMrush, for example, I don't think anyone of you guys utilize more than 10% of the tool. We have the same problems. We bought some very expensive tool, and we probably use like 10% of it. We use maybe one function, and I really don't like building tools like that, right? So that's why when we build Writer Zen, we want to build in a way that you can utilize everything, the whole thing for your particular workflows, and it should help you solve most of your SEO issue. Okay, any other question for me? So over here you can see the combo. You can also purchase the combo package. This probably I don't think we'll continue with the combo package soon once we have the AI credit in place. You can purchase keyword credit here, AI credit also. Pricing is in here, or you could just go into our pricing page. It's in the bottom. That's how we price. Like I said, the AI credit I use for Google NLP analysis, right? And the reason why we have to charge and we cannot offer you for free, even for lifetime deal, is because it costs us money. Each time we run the content, Google will charge us in return. So yeah. Any more questions for me? Let me know if you're clear on the entities and Google NLP part. It took us a while to figure out a way to explain it so that everyone, or we try to explain it in terms that is most simply to understand. You can refer to it. Can I go back and run NLP on older content, or I have to rewrite the content? You can just copy the content of the previous one and just kind of, but you have to run a new one. You have to run a new article in order to turn on the NLP. I use SAM only for keyword list, 2% maybe. Yeah, I know it. 2% is high already. So over here, I will share with you. This one is the article. What are entities and why they matter for SEO? You can actually refer to this article. It's been written on 2018. That's where Google NLP start to introduce. And he go into very in-depth on what entities are and why it's so important in future. And I really truly believe in the next 3 to 5 years, backlink may become almost obsolete, because Google's advancement are very fast, right? Every year you start seeing, and the speed just kind of picking up. You see in the beginning, it's the string areas is quite long, but then when they start entities, by now Google are able to sort of really just when they look through a certain article, they know the meaning and the context of that, and they were able to judge whether or not the contexts are important to the user itself. So by the time if their natural language processing becomes so powerful that they are able to kind of extract meaning the way human would look at it, then I don't think then you really have to focus on writing very good article. You know, and making sure all the good stuff like the outline and the UX of the design are good. Let's see, when should we expect AI writer and how much? I think pricing I can't really disclose yet. We have to do some more testing. But I think hopefully by end of this year or maybe beginning of next year, just around February, January. I don't know, sorry, December or January. That'll be the timing. You can also play around with Google API, NLP API here. So you can actually go in here and start playing around with them. They also have pricing. See, so you can actually, for example, I can do something like this. They have a demo. Secure analyze. See, so these are all the entities. Let's say this is the part. content. Entities are ranked by a quality score that may include freshness, previous selection by users, incoming links, and possible outgoing links. Remember, this is just patent. Don't run out and link to every site you can find. Find the parallelity way. So they will look for, these are all the entity. Quality score, patient, entities, freshness, users, link, weight, site. Right? Okay, we have a question here. I'm doing SEO for local business, and the problem with Ryzen is that I can't zero in on local searches, so I have to use Google keyword analysis and Ahrefs. Is there some way I can get local insight with Ryzen? Hi Joe. Yeah, I think we answered this last webinar as well. At the moment, we have two big things focusing on. We know local SEO is some of the things in which we might be doing next year, but it will have to be reserved until we get done with what we are working on. So two things we're working on. The first is AI writing, which we want to introduce by the end of this year, a Christmas present, you would say. And the second thing is the team functions. Once we have that two big things out of the way, we start with a process we call vertical optimization, and that's where we start putting more little things into our tool. Let's say Keyword Explorer. Maybe we'll do search intent integration. We'll do insights, breaking down more insights from the user persona, or add on local searches, local SEO for you guys. So local SEO essentially is just you are able to kind of really zoom into different cities when you click on we select language and location, right? So it's something that we definitely can see that we could do those. It's just that not at the moment, not just yet. So this is probably definitely something we'll want to do in 2022. Okay, so would you import the keyword list research into the content creator? Oh, sorry, I asked a question. Would you import the keyword list research into the content creator? Yes. So that would be step 3. When you have the article list, meaning that you have all the keywords that you want to include in the article, you will also want to add them into here. So in step 2, besides the keyword list that you find from here, from your competitor and Google NLP, you should definitely import the keyword list in which you know that you are working on for your nutrition plan, right? Let's say article headlines, you have 6. Here. These are all the keywords that you found when you were doing step 3. After golden keyword list filter, using our keyword explorer. Okay, I think we don't have any more questions. Really glad. Thank you very much for staying with me throughout the whole 1 hour, and very sorry about the unstable internet connection. I didn't realize it was so bad. We probably will consider a few different platforms that we could go live all at once, so that other people, if one doesn't work, you guys can all go onto a different platform to make sure that it runs well. Yep. Simple. Step 1, search keyword on content creator. Create content online automatically. Okay. Yeah, no worries, Joe. Very happy to help. I'm glad you like our tool. Alright, so that is it with the 5 steps. All these videos will be available on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe. We have a bunch of tips, tricks, and whatnot. We have a bunch of new videos set coming. All of this content in which I just shared will be broken down into a series of 5 smaller videos in text, so you could go back and digest one by one, and you can actually practice with me, as I will be the one guiding you through each of these steps in a different series. So hopefully that will be available in the next 2 weeks. So any of you guys, not only you don't really have to kind of go back into the whole webinar and watch for an hour, but it will be like a small bite, more condensed sort of information on how you could create the tool, create your content writing part. Okay, so thank you so much for listening in. and hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. All right, and hopefully we'll have good news soon to surprise you all. Okay, thank you, Aaron. Thank you. Bye bye. Okay.